Okay, today's video, we are going to talk about cheap web hosting and how it's one of the most expensive things you could possibly buy and use for your business, okay? So, I know a lot of you guys running businesses hate hearing whatever you're using that you're already accustomed to, have been using, isn't the best, and it's ultimately not serving your needs because you basically didn't either know better or not spending enough money on it because it causes you to have to get off your butt to do something about it once you find out what you have isn't adequate enough. Ultimately, you'll be happy that I told you about the information I'm giving you here today on today's video about cheap hosting. Because if you have cheap hosting, you can lose a lot in your business that you may not even have noticed yet or haven't experienced yet, because the certain things that can happen to you when you have cheap hosting, it will not happen to you all at once, or should I say over time, universally, it can just happen to you all at once. Namely, your website can go down for the reason of the people that are hosting their websites alongside your individual website with the web host that you are with. So what I'm going to tell you in today's video about is what are these individual unique things that are going to cost you money by going with cheaper hosting that is in the range of $10, $20 a month versus the more premium hosting options to host your website, which is going to be more like $50 to $100 a month, how that difference in the results that you're going to have between just that one simple thing of going from paying $10 a month to $75 a month will save you a lot of times tens of thousands of dollars later on when the inevitable happens of you having a business, being a target, having a business that you're building up over time. Because as you build your business up, you are more and more of a target to thieves, hackers, competition that wants to take you down. And having cheap hosting, that is crappy hosting, puts you in a weak position to defend yourself from all these other people that want to take away your thunder. Can do it to you more easily with a cheap website, let alone the additional fact that your website's going to load slower with a cheap hosting account, which that affects your conversion rate on your traffic that you have coming to the site, which is ultimately going to then also give you less conversion rates. It's well known that if your website doesn't load in 2 seconds or less, that for every second that it loads, beyond 2 seconds, you're going to take a 20-30% hit in your conversion rate. So it makes no sense whatsoever to try to save that extra $60 a month on cheap hosting for that reason alone. But it's not even just limited to that. You have all these other reasons. Website can get hacked down. Your website, if somebody comes after you and tries to hack your website down, it can go down much more easily. You have people that are on the same hosting as you. People go after them. Then as a result of that, take you down. Anyway, I'll go through what each one of these things are and why, why you're at risk having the cheap hosting. So regular web hosting that costs $10 a month or around there, I can tell you from experience that you get what you pay for. It's $10 for a reason, okay? You're going to get slow load speeds. It's going to be easy and slow load speeds, by the way, but I'll just go through a bit more in detail on each one of these things. It's going to be slow loading because you're sharing resources. That is, i.e. you get shared web hosting. You're sharing the web hosting with other people on your section of the web server. You ultimately are renting from the web hosting company. So, basically your website is hosted on a hard drive somewhere. When somebody goes to download your website, the person gets routed to your hard drive where your website files are located. They download them off the hard drive through the internet, and with the web files that they download, the web browser that they're using can understand what your website should look like and then render it on your screen. What the shared hosting accounts will do is put your web files on a part of a hard drive that's in there with a bunch of other companies, so that when somebody goes to try to download your website and get your web files, it has to compete with all the other people from all the other websites that are hosted on your same hard drive that are trying to get their web files at the same time. It's almost like a traditional internet connection. There's a reason why a shared internet connection that you get from the internet service provider that you're with, why that's slower than a dedicated connection. Okay? So just like that, shared web hosting is going to be slower than a dedicated web host where you have a hard drive where your website is on that hard drive and only that part of your hard drive, so that you have dedicated bandwidth going to the hard drive. Similar to that, another thing that people will do, that why it loads slower, is they'll use traditional magnetic hard drives to save money because they're cheaper than solid state hard drives. And that makes a difference in terms of the calling rate, or the rate in which, basically the information is able to be pulled from the hard drive, because the magnetic hard drive, there's an arm that needs to go into the part of the hard drive where your files are located, whereas on a solid state hard drive, you're able to access that data instantly, which adds a little bit of a delay in getting the web files, which that little bit of delay costs you money many times. When the website loads slower, like I said, it's directly causing you to have lower conversion rates on the ad traffic you have coming to your website. So that's why it loads slower, by the way. And then your website is going to be easier to take down. So there's ransomware people out there that will basically try to hack down your website. They'll lock it up, and then there'll be a thing on your website that says, in order to unlock your website, you've got to pay XYZ dollars. If you have a cheap web hosting, it's easier to get your website hacked down, because what they try to do is overwhelm your web host to get your website taken down, to go into your contact form and then type in 1 million characters to overuse the server resources. Not to say you can't do this with a more expensive web host, it just certainly just makes it harder, which is the main issue here. Beyond that, okay, if somebody wants to do a denial of service attack against you, which is the main way that somebody that you're competing against would take down your website, they override, send like basically a bunch of fake users at your website to take down your website, because once there's, just for the concepts I said before, once there's so many people trying to go to that hard drive where your website's located, your web files are located, there's only so many people that can get access to that data at any given time, and they send all those fake users to your website. It basically hogs up all the resources from real users from getting to the website, so therefore your website goes down for real users, okay? If you have a shared web hosting account, that's way easier to do. It takes way less. What they usually get is a botnet, where they take over, somebody will hack 10,000 home computer devices, and then they'll sell access to those devices to somebody who wants to ultimately, that's a professional hacker that then works with your competitor to get access to those devices and send all those fake users from all those devices to your website to take it down. It's just way easier to do when you're talking about shared hosting on a shared hosting plan versus a dedicated hosting plan with dedicated resources. Particularly as also more expensive hosting has DDoS protection to go along with it. DDoS stands for denial of service attack. And then directly tied to that, by the way, you got other people on your shared hosting that they could have their competitors going after them, and as a result of that, because you're on the same hard drive as them trying to save money, your website goes now down. So you could get taken down for nothing you even did, which is another reason why this cheap hosting can be the most expensive thing that you could pay for or buy, if you will. So from any money website that you're trying to promote for your business, any site that directly drives revenue for you, not websites that you essentially set up to drive traffic at your core website, you're going to want to have real virtual VPS set up for that website, which I use Liquid Web. It's about $100 a month, but I don't have to share my physical server resources with all the other people that want to also have a cheap web hosting plan. And as a result of that, I can't get hacked down. I haven't been hacked down. And I'm not going to, and maybe you would never get hacked down or have somebody on your server also with you get hacked down, or therefore causing your website to come down ever with that shared hosting plan. But you got to think in the future, if you're in business, you're eventually going to grow your business. It's going to get up to where you're making a few thousand a day. If your website goes down for a couple days, you've lost, in terms of gross revenue, it might be $10,000, $20,000 for having your website down for a day or two. Because a lot of times your website goes down, you don't notice it right away, obviously. It might be 2 days your website's down. You have all this traffic that came to your site that never could buy or turn into a lead, when you could have avoided it just by not being too cheap up front and bought and took my advice and go with an actual real hosting plan for your business. Now, with that said, when you're talking about sites outside of your money site, okay, like what I call feeder sites, because what we'll typically do in businesses that we also invest in or run at the side, on a side, because I run an ad agency. That's my bread and butter business. What I do, I help people run and optimize their ads to make more money. We do it on a guaranteed basis where we take fees after we increase your profitability. That said, we also, as a side, invest in some companies like e-commerce companies and take a percentage of their revenue and do that as well. The best method to promote those sites, once you've picked all the low-hanging fruit of like people on Google searching for that exact product or whatnot, the best thing you can do is do what affiliate marketers do on a regular basis as basically their top strategy, which is they'll create a owned review site that reviews products in the category of the product that you're selling. So if you sell tennis rackets, they'll come up with a tennis racket review site. And of course, all the tennis rackets that you manufacture and sell will be well reviewed on that website. And which is obviously a gray area strategy, but this is what people are using. And they'll set up multiple review sites like that. And then what they'll do from there, like what we'll do as well, is we'll buy a native article on a news site. So if we're selling tennis rackets, we're going to buy a native sponsored article on a tennis news website that talks about all the tennis trends. A native article basically looks like a regular article that would be on that site. It says sponsored at the top in very small letters. And that article will talk about like new tennis racket technology crushes the competition. It'll be an article that looks like just a regular article on the site. And then it talks about how one of the new rackets that have this technology is the Johnson XPR12, which will be a hyperlink that takes you to the review site, which it takes you to the page on the review site that reviews that product specifically. And then that review site and that product on the review site that it takes you to, that page on the review site that it takes you to, then links to your main website that sells the tennis racket on your main website. So it's like a funnel, if you will, but it's a way to do paid advertising that doesn't look like paid advertising, which means it works. Because if you just run an ad that says you have a fantastic tennis racket, people a lot of times won't believe you. But when they find an article about that, about when you type in like on Google, what's the best tennis racket, and then you find this article, which leads you to the review site, which backs up what's said on the article, and then points you to the place where you can buy it. Now you've got somebody who will buy that wouldn't normally would have bought otherwise because they didn't believe what you were saying. Sometimes you can get by with just saying this is the best tennis racket people will buy. But even then, you will generally make way more money doing this other way of marketing here where you're sending people through a chain, and because it's more believable as a whole. Anyway, the reason why I bring this up is we'll run cheap hosting packages sometimes, not for this native article, sorry, but for these review sites, because we'll have a bunch of them. And for all practical purposes, they're not a target. We're not going to get hit by a competitor on this review site, more than likely anyway. And so why invest $100 a month to host this website? It wouldn't necessarily be good. Now, if you're generating serious revenue through this review site, then where you're making, at least $1,000 a month off this review site by itself because of all the traffic you drive to the review site, then I would just upgrade the hosting. But shared hosting is great for sites that don't make any money, that don't also host your main business, where you take orders and the face of your business as a whole. Face of your business as a whole, you're completely silly to use shared hosting nowadays with all the crap going on that I mentioned. And people's sites are getting hacked down all the time. And the fact is, the bigger, like I said before, that you are as a company, the more traction you get in your niche space, the more people are going to want to hack you down. Obviously at the same time, the more you have to stand to lose. So it would make no sense not to take this gamble that this is not going to happen to you. And then furthermore, your site's going to load slower than it needs to. We actually got, if you wanted an example of how good this can be, my site, guaranteedppc.com, I've got our site to load in under a second using that Liquid Web VPS hosting because it uses not shared but dedicated resources on the server. It uses a solid state hard drive. I've hired the best WordPress specialist / expert I can to figure out how to optimize the code on the web page, which is obviously a factor. And now it loads in like 0.9 seconds, which should be your goal, by the way, because you're going to earn every dollar of whatever you invest in getting your website to load in under a second as well. On mobile, it might load in 2 seconds, which is why, by the way, you want to get your desktop site to load under a second, because mobile will still load at half the speed, and you want mobile to load under 2 seconds, because if it loads at 3 seconds, you're going to take a slight hit on your conversion rate still, 20-30%. But anyway, if you want to see how fast it can load, you can just check out our site at guaranteedppc.com, and you can see how much of a difference this actually makes. But if you just try to optimize the code and you try to keep it on shared shitty hosting, you're not going to get your site to load in a second. So naturally, if you're using like a Wix or a Shopify site to host your business, your site's probably going to load pretty fast as is. But at some point, it's not going to load in a second like our site. You may be better off taking your site off those platforms and just hosting it using an open source software like a WooCommerce on WordPress or just WordPress, so you can do the stuff I'm talking about. But anyway, cheap hosting, I see people still using it all the time because they think, what difference does it make that I'm using cheap hosting? It makes a huge freaking difference. And for what it costs to go from good to shitty to good hosting, literally $100 a month in difference in price, there's no reason for anybody, I don't care how small your business is, to host your business on a foundation of $10 a month hosting. There's no reason for it. You're never not going to get that money back. And you're going to lose more than you stand to gain from that extra $100 that you think you don't want to invest in a decent hosting plan for your business. So, just take my word for that. And if you don't believe me, you could easily upgrade your hosting. Check your conversion rates on your site, or if you don't have conversion tracking to track leads and or sales on your site right now, set it up through Google Analytics, baseline your conversion rates, go ahead and invest in the upgraded hosting, see what your conversion rates are after, and from that you can see if you've got your money's worth out of it or not. You will, but at least then you can see, okay, my site now converts 15% better than it did before. Okay, now I'm getting this much more sales as a result of this in terms of the leads that are now being generated that weren't being generated before. And, you can justify it for yourself. So you don't just have to take my word for it. And everything I mentioned on this channel, you don't have to take my word for it. I say this all the time. Go test it for yourself. I'm just telling you the stuff that works for us. You should go test it, see that it works before you just blindly go with whatever I mention on this channel. So, with that said, if you have any questions, leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel, usually within a couple days' time. And lately it's been within 24 hours' time. you can get some feedback from me. I'll try to use my 15 years of ad experience to give you as best of knowledge and guidance as possible as to what you have questions about and trying to do as possible. I do that just as a thank you for watching the channel and helping the channel grow. Beyond that, if you are looking for a channel to subscribe to that'll help you make millions of dollars running ads for your business, this is the channel to subscribe to, as everything I do as my full-time job is just ad testing and figuring out what works for ads so we can guarantee results for our clients. With that, I'm giving you millions of dollars of ad testing research on this channel on a silver platter. What works, what doesn't work, which doesn't seem like a lot until you are in the inside and you realize 99% of the information out there that you find on YouTube, on the web, is just people selling courses or just bullshit, trying to make money off of advertising that aren't actually running any kind of ads or focusing on just ad strategy like I am to give you the information I'm giving you on this channel. So therefore you should subscribe. You should subscribe right now already, because it's not going to get better. You're not going to find better information in this, basically, bottom line. If you like the channel, you also can find my blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog. Because with that, on my blog, I have writing that goes into specific strategies on how to make money with ads, with step-by-step information, with screenshots. If you like the channel, you're going to like my blog even more. Most people do that. Go ahead and venture over there to check that out as well. As mentioned earlier in this video, I run a PPC firm, online advertising agency that guarantees results for their clients. Literally speaking, if we cannot bring you more profit from your ads before we get paid, we do never take a fee from our clients. And of course, the fee that we take is less than the increase in profit we get for you up front. So we're literally making you money to pay us out of nothing. The only catch is we got to know we can get great results for a client before we take them on, and therefore are picky about what clients we work with. But if you want to see if we can get you results, reach out to me at guaranteeppc.com. I'd be happy to give you a free assessment to ultimately see how much profit in addition we can provide you on your ads based upon what you have right now, or even to just what it would take to get your ads profitable. But you can reach out to me. I'd be happy to give you an assessment like that. As a side, if you're not looking to work with an ad agency like mine, which a lot of people aren't, I understand, but if we worked in your niche market before, we can give you the exact ads, landing pages, all the campaign templates, everything that works for your niche market to get phenomenal results that we most of the time spent years building up the results in that niche market, or to work in that niche market to get to the results that we got to. And with that, if you're not in the same geographic area as our client, you can use the same thing we're using in a different geographic area, in your geographic area, to clean up. For a one-time fee, we'll sell you all the templates, and we can tell you the results we already got in your niche market before you went ahead and ever bought the templates from us. We've worked in over 100 different niche markets, so the chances are high that we've worked in your niche market before already. And then with that, therefore, chances are high we've got something that you can easily bypass a bunch of work that needs to be done on your end to get to the rock bottom lead cost, super high ROI from your campaigns already. We've got people that use these templates, by the way, to start whole other businesses. If you want to start a lead generation business, it's super easy to take one of our templates that already work to generate leads and sell leads in that space. Or, if you want to do e-commerce, you're not doing it already, you wanted to, you could take one of the templates we have to sell more of a commodity item you could easily get from China, and starting with the winning ad template that works for that space already, you can make money from that campaign almost guaranteed, basically speaking, because you already have ads that will sell that product and that know that the product will sell. We've got people that have done that with our templates as well. If you're interested in any of those opportunities, you can let me know at guaranteeppc.com. But with that, I'll wrap everything up with that. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in my next video where we have another great strategy for you then. See you later.